Everyone. I was talking to a pastor friend just the other day, and we were talking about revitalization, and he's been a part of a revitalization of the church that he now pastors, and has had some great success there. Been a really incredible story, and so we were talking about why, what makes revitalization so difficult, and sort of like the future of the denomination, our churches, and the role that revitalization plays in that. And he just kind of questioned me and was saying, what do you think is the primary obstacles? Like, why aren't we seeing this happening more? And so just kind of off the top of my head, and I'd love to hear your thoughts too, because likely there's probably something that I'm not thinking of and I'm forgetting. But the three biggest things that I see that are the biggest obstacles currently, and as I look out 5-10 years down the road, from a perspective of church health and perspective of keeping churches alive and doing well and reaching their community and hopefully thriving, there's kind of three big hurdles that I think we have to overcome, and they're not impossible, but in my thoughts, they are kind of daunting because they're really big, big issues that we have to figure out. Number one would be we don't have a number of young leaders or of leaders period who are willing to step out and go into a place to lead a church through a revitalization. We just don't have those leaders. We don't have them trained, and we don't have many young leaders already. And we're working on trying to remedy that, and through the Answering the Call initiative and through the Church Leadership Network and some other avenues. But certainly we have a ways to go, even though both of those areas have seen quite a bit of success. We still have a ways to go. And one thing that we run into is that even if we can build up some young leaders who are capable of going and leading a church and pastoring a church, many of them probably are going to be reluctant or hesitant, and probably rightfully so, and probably many cases are going to be hesitant to go and step into a church that is in need of revitalization, a church that has been in decline for years and years, because it is such a big task, and it is such a it's going to be hard, to put it lightly, and you're going to have to invest a lot of time, a lot of energy there, and so that's a big issue. We need more leaders who are going to be willing to step out and step into something that's really difficult. So that's the first hurdle that I can think of. The second hurdle is this: we need churches, and when I say churches, I mean leadership, and from a pastor perspective, who are willing to maybe step aside or willing to help in a transition to get those new leaders in place. And with that, and with new leaders, with younger leaders, almost the majority of the time, especially going into a church that's been in decline, they're going to want to change things. They're going to have new ideas. They're going to have a vision for how to turn things around, and that means that there's going to have to be change that takes place. And most churches, many churches, are going to be very reluctant to let that happen, to sort of turn over control to a new pastor, to a new leader, and just trust them with that. And I'm not advocating that that churches should just the church leadership and stuff should just give up total control and just just let the new person do anything, right? But definitely there's going to have to be a level of trust that we're okay. We've seen that maybe what we're doing has not been working, and so we're okay with trying other things and trying new things in order to reach people with the gospel. And so that's the second hurdle. Second hurdle is just getting churches to be okay with the idea of revitalization. And with revitalization, it comes change. And that's really difficult for many of them. Many of them, just quite honestly, many of them would almost rather die than to give up control and to let somebody come in and start changing things. So that's the second really big hurdle. That's a really tough one. One that I have experienced, that I've seen firsthand in some of the churches that I've worked with. They really struggle with that. The third thing is this. So you have a shortage of leaders. You have churches that are reluctant to letting it go to control. The other part of this that is coming into play more and more so is that with a church that is in need of revitalization, they're going to be on the smaller side. They're financially, many of the times, they're not going to be able to afford a full-time pastor, or maybe what they thought was a full-time salary in the past. That's no longer the case, right? We just passed this. It was basically a gas station, kind of convenience store place in close to where I live. And it said like starting wage was $18 an hour, which was almost $38,000 a year that you can get by going to work in the convenience store. So the idea that we're going to be able to pay a full-time pastor, $35,000 to $40,000 a year, that's going to be unrealistic. And I'm not putting that on the church. I don't think that churches should, especially that are in financial trouble, should figure out a way, to throw more money at the pastor or whatever. I just think that pastors, more and more so, and we're already seeing this within our denomination anyways, is that more and more it's going to be bivocational, co-vocational pastors is going to be the norm, because they're going to have to in order to live. Just because cost of living went up, if you're going to buy a house somewhere, if you're going to raise kids, if you're going to do these type of things, it just all costs a lot more. And so they're going to have to work another job in addition to pastoring a church. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I actually think that's can be a really good thing. I think it opens up a lot of opportunities for them and for the church as well. But as a part of that, sort of our expectations as churches and as leadership of churches has to change a little bit too, because when you have a bivocational pastor, you can't put the same expectations on them as you would a full-time pastor, or as you would maybe even a bivocational pastor in the past, where it's, okay, they're still expected to preach 50 times a year. They're still expected to do all the visiting. They're expected to do all the funerals, all the weddings. They're expected to only have 2 weeks of vacation each year. If you have those expectations and you put those expectations in front of a potential new pastor, like most of them, I think if they're smart, they're going to turn you down because it just is not realistic. It's not healthy. They're not going to be able to keep up that type of pace and do that. And so we're going to have to be, as church leaders, as the leadership teams, deacons, boards, pastor search committees, whatever it might be, who make those decisions, we're going to have to realize that we're going to have to be more flexible with time, and we're going to have to put help around them, and realize that, we can't put all the work, and we never should have, but we do. We can't put all the work and all the burden on the pastor. We're going to have to take part of this on through volunteers and through others who serve, if we're going to remain healthy as a church, and healthy for the pastor and his family or her family. And so just a few ideas, just a few hurdles that I think we're dealing with. Again, I think it's fairly daunting, but one of the first parts of trying to figure out, all right, how do we get from where we are to where we want to be at, is like, you have to take this moment and step back, and you have to face reality of, like, here's the reality of where we are, and here's the reality of the issues that are in front of us. And we got to be willing to face that, because if we're not willing to face it, then we're just going to continue to decline. And so I would love to hear your feedback. what do you think are some other hurdles, maybe along those same lines, or maybe even if you don't necessarily agree and you say, well, I don't think this is a hurdle actually, maybe this is an opportunity. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. And so I appreciate you guys watching the video, and I'll see you soon.